I knew that if it didn't come up, it would be authorial malpractice. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The Beleaguered Author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today is the start of another reading vlog, and unfortunately it's going to be another short one. It is already Monday, and I have not done any writing until today. In my defense, the Olympics are on, and I love the Olympics. I have been consuming so much Olympics content that I've barely had any brain space for anything else. But today I finally got back to it, and I managed to answer a pretty important question, so let's talk about it. Last week I talked a little bit about solving a mystery, answering a question that kind of has been at the back of my mind ever since I started, conceiving this idea like 2 years ago. And it finally came to a point where I had to answer it if I was going to move forward. And thankfully I did come up with what I feel like is a pretty solid sequence of events of how this mystery kind of developed and how it played out in the conclusion. And while the mystery isn't critical to this particular book and this particular story, I did want it to play a role going forward in future books. So I needed a way. So one area I still hadn't quite figured out was how to kind of tease this mystery and plant a seed that can then later be harvested in future books. And that's really what I've been dwelling on the last several days in between swimming and rugby and gymnastics. I have been thinking kind of what is the best way to incorporate this mystery without it becoming the story, because I already feel like this particular book has a lot going on in it. It's, we're introducing a character into a magical world, although it is urban fantasy. Like, she's stepping into this world that she never knew existed, learning all about her magic, learning all about this government agency that she is being compelled to work for, and everything that kind of goes into that. And also answering the call of the A plot, which is hunting down this particular antagonist. And it just doesn't feel like there's going to be room for this element of her backstory to play a central role. But at the same time, I knew that if it didn't come up, it would be authorial malpractice, because it matters. It matters not just to the larger plot, but also to the character. And if I didn't address it at all, it would be disingenuous. So I have been struggling to come up with a way to incorporate that in a way that is meaningful to the character, but not overwhelming the plot. And today I sat down and really dedicated brain space and thought power towards figuring this part out. And it was interesting because I did the same thing that I did last week, where I just kind of eliminated things that just didn't make sense logically, even though they might make for more exciting story. It would just create too large of plot holes for it to be really feasible. And then I eliminated aspects that would close the storyline off altogether and make it completely an ended thread. And then I just kind of narrowed my options down to what I ended up coming up with. And I found it interesting because as I realized I was coming upon my answer, I didn't feel particularly excited about it. It wasn't sexy. It didn't give me the eureka moment that I was so excited, I felt like a genius. It truly did feel like eliminating all other possibilities to come up with the one that was correct. But even though I don't have that level of eureka or hype for this particular answer, I do feel like what I came up with is right, is the correct way to go about it. Again, not just to do my character justice, but to allow the story to breathe and set up future plot points. And I think that's kind of an important lesson, is it's not always going to be sexy. It's, coming up with ideas and filling in those plot holes and planting seeds for future plot ideas isn't always going to feel like a genius moment, or that you're giggling to yourself because you can't believe you came up with something so cool. sometimes it is just going to be what makes the most sense and process of elimination, and something that just feel like, again, that you have to kind of dig out of this unexciting lump of dirt. And sometimes that's just what writing is. We can't always just write when it feels sexy and exciting. Sometimes it's mining your brain cavity for literally anything that will plug into this particular shape of a story, instead of reconfiguring the story to accommodate what you think is a cool idea. Which is not to say that doesn't have its place. Like, there are some times where you've got to just say, to hell with what makes sense. This is going to be cool and exciting. There's, moderation that you can apply to both sides of that to make a good story. And I think good storytelling, especially with fantasy, doesn't always adhere to what makes sense, but you've got to balance those things. So while my discoveries today were not particularly invigorating, they were a very critical step for me to finally get, as we are getting into August, where I want to start my outline. Taking that step, answering that question, knowing how I want to play it in is important, because now I know I need to have a scene where this particular moment is discussed or this thing happens. So yeah, just, again, writing isn't always glamorous. Anyone who tells you that it is selling something. The other thing I learned today is that I am definitely really fatigued with world building and setup and what I have been doing. I think I am definitely ready to start my outline regardless. I do have a little bit of unanswered questions, particularly about my secret government agency, but the work that I did today also kind of made me feel better about where I'm at with that, even though it's not like I don't fully have like an org chart built out or like a cast of characters for every government role that might, need to appear in this agency. I don't have all that, but I feel good about where I'm at. I feel good about being ready to start on Thursday, August 1st with my outline. The next couple of days, I'm probably just going to be just kind of pinning some things down that will be important for the plot and starting to get my head around the first draft of my outline. So that is everything for today. Tomorrow I will check in with you. Like I said, I don't have any concrete plans. I am just going to be taking notes and thinking about any last minute details that are going to matter when I start my outline, and any world building or plot holes that might need to be filled in. At this point, I think I've covered pretty much all of the necessaries, but with these last couple of days, it's just going to be maintenance. So I will talk to you tomorrow when I have another update. Hello, everyone. It is now Tuesday evening, and I have a confession: I did not write today. Not a bit. It is the busiest time for me at my job the last couple of days. I am usually pretty swamped, and I come home feeling fried, and today was no different. But in a way, I actually think taking a few days off before I jump into the next big phase is probably a good thing, because I don't want to burn myself out either. I want to make sure that I feel completely refreshed and motivated and good to go for the next part, which is, of course, as I've mentioned, the outline. So I'm not really too pressed that I haven't written. I did think about it a little bit as I was doing other things and kind of probing some areas that feel a little bit on the weaker side. And ultimately what I decided is that the first draft of the outline is probably going to be good enough to dredge up any of those weak points and kind of give me an idea of what needs to be shored up. I don't think that continuing to mull over the world building and kind of the plot and the structure and all of the key components that I've been working on the past couple of months, I don't think continuing to dwell on them is going to be very productive. Or, I mean, it's diminishing returns at this point is what it is. So I think I'm just going to leave it for Thursday to get started on the actual outline proper. So that means I probably won't have an update for you tomorrow. I'm not going to rule it out, so I'm not going to end the vlog just yet, just in case I have a eureka moment and remember something that I need to get done before the outline. But for now, I am content to just take a couple of days, let myself kind of take a couple of days, not stress about it too much, get a few days break, especially with everything else going on, and then dive right into the next phase. I am really excited about the outline though. I have always really loved the planning process. I have never done world building quite in this depth before, but I have done outlining like this before. So I feel really, really secure in my process, and I feel real excited about what I'm going to come up with. This is another phase of writing for me where I feel like some of my best ideas, and it just gets me, it really boosts my confidence that I have the ability to actually write and finish a draft is when I have a completed outline. Unfortunately, those have been few and far between the last couple of years, which is why I feel really strongly about doing this and spending at least a month, if not, a month and a half on working on that outline, shoring it up, making sure it's complete before I start drafting. It is starting to kind of look like it might be like October 1st that I will be able to start drafting, and that is so cool. I'm not going to set a hard day or time. I feel like once I have that outline complete, it'll be another situation where I take a couple of days to kind of build up my chi, and then I'll dive into it when I feel ready. Like I said, I'm not going to hold myself to a specific start time or be precious about like it has to be the first of the month or whatever. But I am kind of seeing that towards the end of September or the beginning of October is when I'll be ready to start drafting, and I'm really excited. So that's where I'll leave it for today. Like I said, I don't know if I'll have an update for you tomorrow. If I don't have any ideas come to me, I'm just going to take the time to kind of, like I said, step back and let myself regenerate before diving in. So I may or may not see you tomorrow. And if I don't, thank you so much for watching. And if I do, I'll see you then.